thinking about
the hamster doesn't get off the wheel.
Exactly.
I'm like fascinated with the titles of the books. I'm like, what does that?
Is that your voice of God sound?
Well, that's him.
Oh.
Yeah. We are. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So first thing that we're gonna do, just like we talked about, is let's just take a really deep breath together as the four of us, just to sort of set ourselves into the mood that we want to bring into the experience. So one deep breath in, one deep breath out.
I've already had 3 breaths in that one breath.
That's okay. Do you want to take another one?
No, I'm good.
Okay, 3 breaths is good. Welcome to the Unscripted Room. The theme for our night is work and parenting balance. And the lens that we're going to have this conversation through is the perspective of a mother. What is it like to be a mom and to deal with everything that you have to between those two extraordinarily challenging conflicts of time? I'm extremely excited to have the 3 of you as our guests because, I know all of you for different reasons. Like 2 of you have been my neighbors at different chapters of my life. We've gotten to know each other quite well because our kids play soccer together and we sit on the bench and chit chat. But I think the thing that makes me feel really grateful for the group that we brought together tonight is that I know your kids. And because I know your kids, I know the character that you raise your kids with. And I think that we're about to have a very interesting conversation about the pleasure and the complexity of trying to parent with all of the other things that you have to deal with at any given time. So the way that this is going to work is we'll go through 3 questions that allow us to kind of focus on our past. Then at the second hour, we'll go through 3 more questions where we get a chance to focus on our present. And then in the last hour, we'll focus on questions that bring us into a vision for our future.
Cool.
And if we're ready, if you want to get us started with the first question, that would be great.
I'm very excited to open these fancy envelopes. Wax seals?
Listen, no
Good gravy.
no expenses spared for the 3 of you.
My 14-year-old loves a wax seal, so
I
I
mean,
feel
who
like I'm
doesn't?
already winning as a parent just because of that. All right. How has becoming a mother changed the way you see yourself? Julie, over to you.
How I see myself. I think I've had to find patience for failure.
In what way? How do you define patience and failure?
So I generally feel that if I'm really doing awesome and excelling at being a mom, it generally means the sacrifice and failure on something else, like work. So for example, like every weekend, I go into the weekend, and I'm like, I'm going to do some work this weekend. I'm going to catch up on all the things I can't do during the week. And then Saturday comes, and guess what, everybody at this table, it's soccer day, right? So I'm like, oh no, I should really just focus on Eamon. I should go to the game. I shouldn't I shouldn't try to fit in any work. And then Sunday night rolls around, and I'm like, oh, I'm failing. Like I got not ahead. So I think I've had to that's where the change has come for me. I just have to accept that I can't be perfect at everything. I just can't. And that's okay.
Yeah. Is that relatable to the 2 of you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think early on in my motherhood journey, I tried to get it all, be perfect at everything. And somebody, I don't remember who, I wish I did, somebody told me this piece of advice that I've held on to, and it's you can have it all, just not at the same time.
Right.
And I have never been back to that type A personality ever since. Whatever, it is what it is. I think you guys know me well enough. I've probably never been a type A, but I tried really, really hard to just have it all. Be fit, be healthy, get all the granola stuff for the kids and do all the activities for the kids and have the job and all of it. But you can't do it all at the same time. It's not possible. A clean house. There's no way to fit it all in. So that's that piece of advice that somebody gave me. I'll never go back because now it's stress-free. Not stress-free, but...
like looking at this question again, how has becoming a mother changed the way I see myself? I think I always, like, I was the person that never, ever, this makes me sound horrible, but like liked children. Like I was like the person that like, it was like, do you want to hold the baby? And I was like, hard pass. I don't really need to hold the baby.
Yeah.
But I always knew I wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
So I feel like motherhood, like what you two are saying, for me has been a juggling act in identity.
Yeah.
I think it comes down for me to, I've always valued myself and like seen myself as this kind of person that has always been like very good at work, very organized. I think I'm like a good partner. I'm a good friend. And so like figuring out how motherhood fits into that without robbing from everything else and robbing from who I am as a person, because I want my kids to grow up in a household where they can look at me and say like, oh, okay, you can have it all, maybe not all at the same time, but you can be a full person. You're not just a mom or just a wife or just an employee. Like you can kind of have this full picture, but it's hard. And the advice from everyone else, I think, is what always makes it the most hard.
What kind of advice do you get from other people that makes it harder?
Oh my gosh, I think it's gotten easier over the years, but like in early days, I remember being like viscerally angry at the people who would say things like, well, these are the most important times. Like you need to hold on to these moments.
Yeah.
And the moments were awful. Like the moments were like, I'm stuck on a couch because like if I move, this baby will wake up. Mm-hmm. And I'm trapped because I'm the only one that's able to give him food. And I have a partner, but he can't help past, he can help to a certain point, but he can't breastfeed. He can't, there's only so much that he can do. And I remember being so angry at the people that were making me feel like I needed to be more in love with the moment. And I wasn't in love with the moment at that time.
Yeah.
I knew it would get better and get easier. And every step has gotten easier, but I never miss those days. I love how I loved aspects of those moments. I loved kind of the chaos of it all, but every year has gotten better, and they're these people that I get to actually spend authentic time with. Whereas I feel like those early days, the advice was so focused on isn't this awesome? This is what motherhood was. And to me, those moments were the worst and didn't feel like motherhood. Now I feel like it's okay, I know who I am with my people. But those moments I just think back on and kind of ugh.
It's interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think the intention is well suited when people say that.
Oh, yeah.
Because the time, looking back, and I'm I'm in the college age. I have two going off, one in college, one going off. 8 goes by so fast.
Yeah.
And it makes me...
The days are short, but the years are long.
And I do remember...
The days are long, but the years are short, yeah.
I do remember that. I just...
Yeah.
So I think the intention is you should relish that moment because it goes by really, really fast. And I do... wish I could hold a little nugget again.
Yes. I love that warm weight when they're heavy. And those little noises they make. Oh my God, I would kill to have that back just for a minute.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't want to go back fully. Fully back.
I would go back.
No more night diapers. No.
Well, I wonder what the question is also, what would have happened if you had somebody who came to you and instead of saying oh, this is the greatest time that you're ever going to have in your life, they're listen, here's how it is. You're going to go through some serious shit and it's going to be extraordinarily hard, but you're going to find these little moments or these little nuggets that are going to be worth it. It's, in the same way that anything could be 80% doing a lot of hard work and 20%, bliss. And the 20% bliss is just worth the 80% of the effort that you're putting in. I don't know. Is that more honest or is that not where it ends up? What would be helpful?
I don't think you're going to learn. Sorry to cut you off. I don't personally think you're going to learn or understand it at the time. It's not something you're going to know until you feel it. So how can you understand that this is the moment? I don't know.
It's also so individual, and maybe that's what I was really struggling with all the way through. Pregnancy and having a baby and and the whole journey of raising a child is so individual, like even the two kids I have are completely different experiences,
Yeah.
like on all those fronts. So I always felt like any advice, even on both sides of the coin, like where some people were like, this is really hard, you're not gonna be able to sleep at night, like, which was, I appreciated in like the honesty of it, was someone else's lived experience. And like what I went through was completely different than what, like, elements I think are the same, but there is an aspect of it where like, it's never going to be the same. Each human being is going to have a completely different experience because each child is different. Like the hospital I went to is different. The partner I have is like, it's all just kind of a different across the board, which makes it tough because I think people are well-meaning in the advice. And I'm sure I've given tons of advice that maybe people loved or didn't love. But
My best friend since childhood had children much earlier than I did. I was kind of like late to the party. I was 35 when I had Eamon. And it's okay if you use his name, it's fine. It's totally okay.
permission granted.
Permission granted. Sign here. And so my friend by that point had 3. So she was very transparent and very honest about what to expect. And so I knew going in, but before I had my son, like we struggled. So like I went through rounds of IVF, like I had a miscarriage. So to me, like I was, the pain and the sadness that came before was nothing in comparison to like, okay, I know I'm going to be sleepless, but like I wanted this. So like that to me was, it's children, they're unpredictable. And so I knew there was going to be some element of surprise and uncomfortableness, but like you don't know until you're there.
Yeah.
But I went in not with rose-colored glasses. Like I knew there was going to be some challenges. But when you're in it and you're trying to balance it, it's different from like your expectations. Like you have expectations, but you don't know until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that has come up in any conversation that's involved parenting is that I think that one of the things that all parents seem to agree on is that it's really not all that fruitful to take advice from other parents because they don't know your kid that well. And even when you do know your kids really well, you understand that there isn't a universal one-size-fits-all rule to any of this anyways. And what does seem to be the only thing that I've even seen come close to being able to bring everything together is just this idea that if you want to try to be a good parent, it seems like the option that we have is to try to become the best version of ourselves and then figure out how we tell our kids what we did to get there at the age appropriate time. And other than that, it's kind of like, one of the things that I thought about a lot leading up to this podcast was I'm very sensitive to the idea that I'm sitting across from 3 women that I respect who are mothers. And one of the things that I'm going to try to do my best, but like I want to be held accountable to this, is that I don't want to try to explain anything. I want to be extremely curious about what it's like to be a mom because I've never been one. Mm-hmm. But I can say from a father's perspective, one of the things that I experienced early on was that I had a lot of dads tell me like, oh, when your kid's born, it's going to be the greatest moment of your life. But that was not at all the experience that I had.
Tell us about your experience. I want to hear.
Well, I was 24 years old. I was scared out of my mind. Mm-hmm. I had tons of financial things going on. I had, life was changing faster than I could get my hands on it. I really had always wanted to be a dad. It was something that I held as sacred space in my life. I thought that was kind of the point of all of this, was to do that. But it wasn't happening the way that I thought it was going to happen. And then I got to the process of the birthing process, and I was like so helpless. You know what I mean? Like just
so are we.
Right. I desperately wanted to help my wife and figure out how I could be helpful, and I just felt so unhelpful. And I think it left me feeling very insecure, and I didn't know how to process that in the, like obviously when you're there as a man, you know that this is your need to put all of your time and effort into figuring out how to be a support system because you're doing nothing in comparison to what is happening like that. But it wasn't until later on when I started having conversations with other people that I figured out that wasn't a universal feeling that every dad was like stoked when their kid was born. And it's not like I wasn't in love with what was happening. It's just at the time, all of the emotions that were flooding were not like these euphoric, oh my God, feelings. They were a lot more like, what the fuck did I just get myself into? feelings?
Yeah, you can't return that to Amazon.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's so much happening that you're not in control of. But anyways, all of this just to say that I'm going to do my best as we go through these questions to keep filtering the questions back to you from the perspective that I don't understand so that I can tap into as much curiosity as I can. But I'm also here to try to support if you want to know the perspective of what it was like for a dad or a man on the other side.
I totally want to know
Yeah.
more.
So I'll try to answer any questions that I can because I do have so much respect for what that process is. I don't know who we were having a conversation with, but like even when you think back to the idea of what a mother has to go through to bring a baby into the world, holding on to a baby for 9 months, giving birth, all of that, and I'm like, what a little shit I was to my mom. You know what I mean? Like, what a saint, and what a little shit I was that I never even figured out how to get to the point where I could understand what this woman sacrificed for me to have consciousness and to have a life, and how rare that is for this version of me to even be born into the world. And yet I didn't appreciate that the way that I wish I would have. It's one of the very few regrets that I have in my life. But I genuinely appreciate how much harder it must be to be a mother, and because there's such a deep responsibility to what happens in the beginning of that process, that as a man, you're very clear, like, oh, I'm a bystander here, and I just need to figure out how I can support.
In that process, yeah. I'd be very curious what you felt while your partners were pregnant. Like, I'm going to hear, all right, here's the thing. I'm going to be, all right, ready? I'm ripping out the soul, putting it on the table, everybody. One thing that has always bothered me, which I've never shared with anybody, and my husband would kill me if he knew I was sharing this. When you watch movies and you see things of it's like, oh, when you are pregnant, how your spouse, and it's like being very like affectionate and holding your belly and like imagining things. He was so grossed out and was not like, oh my God, it's like an alien. Like he was never hands on the belly. And to this day, it still bothers me. So I'm very curious, like, did that whole, like, just the process of a woman being pregnant and the belly changing, like, did that gross you out? How did you feel about that during the whole process? That's a good question. I'm very curious because I think Hollywood dramatizes it. Yeah. And I don't know if that's reality.
I think that Hollywood dramatizes it and it feels different as a man. What I can say is that while my two kids were, while my first wife was pregnant with my two sons, I felt a connection to the process of what was happening, but I had a very difficult time figuring out how I could feel physically connected to the baby that was growing inside of her belly. It was like she was having this incredible biological experience that I was just watching from the sideline, and she was going through this chemical experience that looked beautiful, but I wasn't going through the same chemical experience. I was just observing somebody going through that experience who was also having a lot of highs and lows, and I was just trying to ride the wave, just trying to figure out how I could be an honest observer of that. I will say that what it looked like she was experiencing in that 9 months, I have come to now experience that with my sons as they've gotten older, and they've relied on me, especially as they hit puberty, and they relied on me to teach them how to be men. I feel like that was like giving birth
your pregnancy?
to something. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Really cool. I've heard again advice. I don't remember who, but they said as you are pregnant and you have toddlers and you're raising your babies, that's the mother's time to bond. As your kids age into teenhood, that's the father's time to bond. It's more relatable, I guess, maybe for dads. I don't know, but I definitely see more of a connection between Nick and the kids now than when they were babies. That was, and then there's also more of a disconnect, because it's like they don't need me as much.
I have a bit of a theory here that I wish that somebody had articulated to me at that time period, which is that it feels like the bond between a mother and a baby is so powerful. Like it's so intense, and it's not the same for a father. And what happens is that you have to try to figure out after when the baby is born, you need to figure out how to cultivate the relationship between the mom and the baby to be as intense as it needs to be, and cherish that as much as you can. But then as the kids get older and older, and maybe 18 is where this like crossover age is where like moms need to start letting go and dads need to start picking up. You know, so that there is this ability for kids to be able to walk into the world as independent people, which I think, like finding that crossroads. You know, I've never been married to somebody where I've gotten to that point of being able to raise kids together to see that intersection happen. But to me, that feels like the logical intersection is that if you are partnered with somebody, that the natural bond that a mom has is so intense in the beginning, and the bond that a dad can create becomes more powerful from my experience over time. Maybe there is a natural intersection there.
I do think you're right. I noticed that even, like, my kids are not 18 yet, but I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I do notice, particularly because I travel a lot for work, so there are a lot of times where my husband is at home with the kids, but even when he's not, his like threshold for what they can do is very different than my threshold.
Yes.
Which I appreciate more and more, like as time goes on. Like when they were really little and he would do what I thought were crazy things, like hand off, be like, hold this hammer, follow me over to this plate, you know, like let's put this nail in, or let's, like he would let them do things that I would not dream of letting them do at the age that they did. But the older that they get, the more that I'm like, oh, I've been like holding them back for things. And I love that it's not even, I feel like in television and movies, it's like, it's the kind of like fun dad stereotype. For him, it's not even like the fun dad. It's just that he's like, they can do this. Like you're getting in their way by not doing this. And it's like she can walk down the street to a friend's house by herself. She doesn't need a phone. She's fine. Like she can go to a neighbor's house if she gets lost or stuck, or figure out how to navigate herself back. And I love the kind of, like, as you were saying, sort of that trade-off where it was like when they were little, they were so dependent, particularly on me. And the older they get, I really love having a husband that's just like, nope, you need to back off here and let them just do their own thing. I'm actually really great, as much as sometimes I'm like, no, but I can do that, or I can, like, I want to push back against it. I'm really grateful that he's very clear about like, no, this is where we need to let them do their thing.
Similar experience. Like Marley missed the train going to Boston and called me in a panic. I was like, okay, I'll be right there.
Get in my car,
And Nick's like, she can do this. Like she can drive there, park, go to the show. Like just because you have trouble driving into the city doesn't mean she will let her fly. And she got a little lost coming back, but that's okay. I mean, it totally, like we're all GPSing and like watching her end up like 93 northbound all the way into Wyndham, and her phone was dead and couldn't get a call. But the long story short, it was that like you have to let her realize and learn that piece of independence and not bail her out. Like she can do it. And she wanted to, and it's very similar.
Yeah, dads are great for that.
Yes.
At least in my experience.
Yeah,
dads
I think that's like I think that we're like programmed so the same when I go on a trip, I'm like, did you make him lunch? Because Eamon will not eat like school food, right? He will not. This kid is so spoiled. Let me just tell you, literally every morning I boil water in a tea kettle, okay? And I fill it in the hot thermos. Yes, please do laugh. Go ahead. Because he wants hot lunch. So I literally heat up a thermos literally every day.
Yep.
And then it's timing, right? I'm like, I have to make the chicken tenders and I have to time it right so they get into the thermos so it was a hot lunch. Eric's like, you know what happens when you go away? He eats a sandwich.
Yeah.
He has to make his own lunch.
He makes it
He
himself.
does it himself.
Yeah.
He does it himself.
My kids do everything themselves.
But I just can't do it. I can't do it. Like I feel guilty. And I'm like, but he's not eating good, nutritious food. Like, and then I feel guilty.
So I have questions for you, because obviously, like, I don't know what it was like to feel the feelings of when they were born, when you created them. You know what I mean? You shared your
physical self.
Your physical self with someone. I'll never experience that. And I'm not saying that I want to be pregnant. Like, I don't have any of those kinds of fantasies, but I do think, man, that must have been a really magical experience to be able to share that. It looks like the way that it's described is a magical experience. Is it? Is it magical to be able to
No,
have that?
Magical?
Absolutely
No,
not.
I think it goes back to the Hollywoodized thing.
Yeah.
You know,
So
like
this is really great then to know. I think this is a good.
I would say it does have moments of magic, but then there's also moments of just like, I don't know, fear and worry and overthinking and uncomfortableness and
Yes.
everything in between. Like,
Yeah.
there were those moments of just like, whoa, this is actually really incredible to think about like what your body is going through, but equally mixed with like, I don't know, particularly with my daughter, my second, I had such a weird, almost like surreal experience where I literally didn't feel pregnant, like other than being big. Like I didn't like, could barely feel her, like she wasn't kicking a whole lot. She wasn't, so there was a level of like panic over, is she okay? Is this okay? Is this normal? To the point that I literally had to buy myself like a machine to hear her heartbeat, like you could hold on your stomach. So like there are magical moments where you're like, wow, it's incredible that my body can do this, but it's mixed in with like my ankles are swollen, I can't walk, I still have to work my full-time job. Can I everything you were feeling in those moments? Like, can I afford this? Why are we doing this? I am so overwhelmed with everything.
And maybe it's obvious, like I'm not sure that there's any walk of life where the high that you experience isn't equal to the low that you're about to experience.
Yes.
So maybe that's the obvious part of this, is that there are moments that have something to them that is a level of intensity that you feel in your life that makes you feel really present. But there's also moments that you're like, wow, this is a lot. It's also their first kid is the first time that we're all taking on responsibility. Because I don't know, before you have kids, whether you're a man or a woman, I don't know what the differentiation would be, but it's such a big leap into responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing is more terrifying than the moment they're like, okay, you can bring your child home. And you're like, what? Where's
How,
the
though?
manual? And I remember being like, I don't know when he needs to eat. Like it was like I panicked. I was like, I constantly thought he was starving. Like, he's starving. He's hungry. He's starving. I don't know when is he hungry? He's not telling me. I don't know. Is it 2 hours? An hour? 3? I don't know. Like it doesn't come with a manual. So you have no idea.
They wouldn't let us take Casey home right away. And we were young parents. I was 22 when we had Casey. And Nick was 24, 25. And she lost like a whole pound, which is a lot but she wasn't latching, she wasn't nursing, and I was convinced that we're gonna do the breastfeeding thing. And the nurses were like, you can't do it, you're not built right, this isn't working. And they took her one night and fed her formula. And I was so heartbroken over that, because I'm like just because I hadn't like got
I hadn't
had the letdown, and I was devastated. And I'm like, how dare they take that away from me? And then I had midwives and lactation consultants, and the reason I say like, no, it's not magical is not because like what you bring into this world is like you're proud and it's magical, that part, but the whole experience of vulnerability and just everybody. Nick was a paramedic in class, and he had his whole class come in to the room.
Dear God, no.
And I let him. I at that point, everybody else has seen it. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But they had to witness births, and that was one on his class. In the rest of his, there's like 4 or 5 of them. But he delivered all of the babies, because in that first case.
Wait, he delivered all the kids?
He delivered our babies, because
so cool.
he was getting his paramedic when we had Casey. And so the midwife was like, you have to do this as part of your hours or minutes or whatever they have to clock. So she let him, and we had a great midwife all 3 times. And so the next time around, she was like, you're up. Like she just let him do it. But I think that the aspect of it's ugly. Everything in that elements, like when you're birthing, is hideous, and it might feel glamorous and dramatized and beautiful for other people, but as a mom, like just pushing out, like being naked, totally, everybody sees everything. And it doesn't matter. There's no shame after the fact.
Right.
Like I felt like after delivering, whatever, Self-esteem goes down and nobody cares.
So interesting because so Eamon was a C-section.
Oh, okay.
That boy did not want to come out. He was 2 weeks late. He's like, nah, I'm good. I'm staying here.
Cooked well.
And they gave me everything. They're like, we'll give you this pill. That pill didn't work. And then remember in the very beginning, I was like, this is going to wind up in a C-section, which is what I didn't want. And I was like, no drugs. I don't want any drugs.
Yep.
I want everything natural. Don't give me anything. I felt like an obligation to do everything perfect, if you will. And in the end, you wind up being a C-section, and to this day, I'm still kind of jealous. Is that weird?
No, that's common.
Is it weird that I'm jealous?
That's common. That's very. I've heard that from I've even heard that from my own mother because I was a C-section baby with my head wrapped around losing oxygen. It's probably what happened
the
to me.
cord was
So I
wrapped,
don't think fast.
Oh, stop.
lost too much oxygen. But I think that's what I've heard is it almost feels like you're robbed of
to this day, I still feel robbed.
I had one of each, and I felt the same way as you for the C-section. I had an emergency C-section, and so I think the thing that, and I totally agree with what you said about breastfeeding, the things that no one fully explains
nobody
to
tells you.
And maybe they can't, maybe the truth is that they just can't, is that you will never be more out of control, and no matter how much you want it to go a certain way, it's not. You have no option. You can make whatever birth plan you want to make.
It's hilarious.
You can do whatever. You can go to all the classes. You can read all the things. You can listen to exactly what your doctor is saying about your specific body, and it does not matter. In the end, it is completely up to whatever. But there is, particularly with breastfeeding, there is this and actually a little bit with labor as well. There is sort of this notion, I don't know, at least maybe it's different now. This was years ago when I was going through it. But there's this idea of you're not sick, but you're in this, so you're almost borrowing a hospital space and a hospital team to help support you. But you've got this, your body can do this kind of thing. So they want to give you autonomy, but you're also totally out of control.
Right.
And they're standing by. But there is a judgment, particularly when it comes to breastfeeding, on you should be breastfeeding, and if you aren't able to, we would love for you to be able to. Right. And if you want to choose to not, you're wrong. And if you want and if you need to not breastfeed, you're that's too bad. So there's almost a no-win situation in that whole experience. I will.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I was so fixated on getting it to work that I had come back day after day after day to get her to latch properly. And that's where that it's very ugly because I had lactation consultants helping, and you lose kind of your sense of autonomy and self because they're literally taking your boob and putting it in the baby, showing you how to fix their tongue and how to get it to work. And I'm like, I guess I'm just a cow now. That's literally how you feel. And
you're deliriously tired, and all of the voices in your head are telling you well, you're not going to have a good bonding experience with your baby. You're a bad mother unless the baby is on you all the time.
What's wrong with you?
But you're also please just take this baby and feed this baby so that I can sleep for 5 minutes. And all the decisions you make feel wrong.
Wrong. Everything. And if you co-sleep or if you fall asleep while breastfeeding or...
the whole okay, I have a question. I have a question for you. Ready?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Okay.
Ready? But this is all about the honesty thing, right? Mm-hmm. Did you or did you not put the baby as an infant in the bed with you and sleep with the baby?
All the time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the thing they're oh my, you're you are a devil if you do this. Mm-hmm. And I remember okay, get the baby in the bed, get the baby in. The woman that lived 2 doors down from me in our old house, she had 5 daughters, and I was exhausted. I don't think I literally slept for 48 hours. I was literally hallucinating. And she said, Julie, just put Eamon in the bed with you. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, the only people who roll over on their children are because they're drunk or they're sick or they've taken NyQuil. If you are drunk or you are sick, you are taking NyQuil. Don't put the baby in bed. Otherwise, she's like, how do you think for thousands of years people have put the baby? When I did that, the Eamon slept, I slept. It was the best decision I ever made.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say yes, I did it. Would I have been able to live with myself if I rolled over on my baby? Probably not. I would kill myself too. But the hardest one was Grayson, who slept with me until he was about, and you can edit this part out. But
No, we can't edit anything. So
he'll be embarrassed to learn that he was like at my height when he stopped. Like he was like pushing 10. I swear to God, he was way too old. But
Like Eamon was not too far behind.
I'm like, dude,
So don't feel bad.
You're too like the dog and like the dogs and you're the size of me. Like you were too old for this.
The cat was what got him out.
There really though is like no right or wrong. There's only what works. Like
Yes.
True.
I remember like distinctly a moment where like the advice was like, I can't remember on what side the advice was, but there was a moment where we were trying to get Kieran to fall asleep, and he was itty bitty, and he would literally only sleep if he was like physically on one of us. So we were rotating. We were like laying on the sofa, like in shifts, watching Hell's Kitchen and like the worst possible TV, like all night long, and then taking shifts to go up and sleep. We're like, okay, we will put him in the crib and like let's just see what happens. Like how is he gonna cry for like some long period of time? And Dane was like, okay, we'll put him in the crib, we will set a clock, and we will let him cry for no more than I think it was like 2 minutes or something like that, which felt like an eternity, and that we were the worst possible parents in the world. And it literally got to like a minute 58 and I was like halfway up the stairs, then he stopped crying, and we were like, okay, that's
on the stairs.
but it's all the advice that you hear on like, you shouldn't let them cry it out. You should let them cry it out. They should sleep with you. They shouldn't sleep with you. Like, I remember a moment in the hospital with, and I can't remember if it was Kieran or Scarlett, but they offered me right after the baby was born to take the baby to like the nursery and feed them and take care of them so I could sleep for some period of time. And I was like, no, I'm a new mother. I've got this. Kept the baby with me. And then later, like a day or so later, I was like, can you take the baby for an hour so I can sleep? And they were like, oh no, like we've like marked and whatever that this baby like stays in the room with you. Like you've already made that decision. I was like, this was the worst.
Forever?
This was the worst decision.
That is a one-time decision.
Oh my God, that's-
Forever.
I was like, I was so tired. I regret. But like the judgment behind it is like, well, no, like you've told us you've got this, so you can't change your mind and like not got this anymore.
What about Sage? Did he?
Did they sleep in bed?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Dashiell, so Dashiell definitely started sleeping in bed almost immediately. And then I would say that was kind of even a challenge as he got older, is trying to figure out what's the dynamic of the relationship between husband and wife when you have children between you all the time.
But literally, yes.
Literally between you all the time, and you have to try to figure out like, well, we both equally love this thing, so it's not like we're making an issue out of the fact that we want to make sure that the baby is in great position and being loved, but like how long? How long do we do this for? What's the right amount of time? Right. When does this begin? When does this end? But I was thinking as everybody was going around, the interesting part of this conversation so far for me was that like maybe the whole thing is that you're exactly right. Like we should just lower the expectations of what right is. Mm-hmm. Maybe none of us know what right is. Maybe right is just whatever happens and then figuring out how to adapt yourself to the reality of what's happening in that moment. Maybe
in the moment.
It's just being the best version of whatever that situation is bringing you and allowing that to happen. So literally feeling like it's got to be really hard if somebody's setting the expectation that you should be able to breastfeed, to nourish your child, and it's not working.
Oh my God.
That's got to be a terrible feeling to have somebody else creating more pressure. And
Oh,
it's like,
yes.
of course it's not going to work when you create more pressure. That's the whole, it's a lot. But the other question that I had that's maybe on the other side of this was, I'm very curious whether the baby that you felt like you knew while they were in you, has it turned out to be the same child that you know today?
I think that's a really hard question. Like I didn't know what the baby was going to, expectations, you mean? Like met the expectations?
Well, maybe I'm exaggerating what I think the idea of pregnancy would be. Like, I imagine that there would be some level of kind of like seeing the personality of whether they're kicking or not, or whether they're turning, or whether they're, are they active or are they inactive? And then does that end up being something that you can see the way that was happening then ends up being the 3 kids that you have in the different ways? Or maybe it's just this is something here and not
I
in
think
reality.
that's a Hollywood eyes.
I think it's a Hollywood eyes.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Hollywood eyes,
How
for
much
sure.
of We had a podcast the other day, and it came up where we were talking about. It was the owners of the Bakehouse and the Juice House that came on, and their podcast was called All at Once, because they have a 2-year-old and they're having another baby.
Oh, wow.
They're trying to start 3 businesses simultaneously.
Oh my God.
They're all
Are they suicidal?
And they're relatively newly married.
Oh my
So they're
goodness.
taking on all of these things
That's
all
a
at once.
lot.
But we were also talking about how many tropes we all fall into about what it is to be partnered with somebody else during those processes. Like, how much were we impacted by Married with Children? How much were we impacted by Home Improvement?
Yeah.
You like go
Right.
back to the stuff that we were watching. How much of that did that set a tone for what right and wrong was in the way that a household was supposed to be, or at least in the comparison between what we were experiencing in our own house versus these like sitcom or those versions? It creates a lot of opportunity to not exactly know how to be comfortable navigating in your own space and not need somebody else to give you that validation.
I had the most interesting experience on that front, movie and TV versus reality front. I have always been like the biggest fan of the vacation movies, so the Christmas Vacation is
The
yeah,
National
yeah.
Lampoon.
yeah, love it. I like just there's something about like the kind of slapsticky, ridiculous family
Yeah.
over the top, and I have like such strong childhood memories of it. I have
Yeah.
like that movie almost memorized. I watch it every year for Christmas. I've been with my husband like between dating and marriage probably like 25 years at this point. And only recently, so I just started up a podcast where I'm reviewing old movies, and so we've been
cool.
rewatching one a week, like old movies,
Oh, that's a fun
and
thing
sometimes
to
he joins me and sometimes he doesn't. But he was like, "Can I just be honest with you for a minute? I hate that movie. Like I hate it with like the power of 1,000 suns. Like he really hates that movie." So we were talking about why he hates it.
Yeah.
And what he said to me, it hit me on the parenting front. I feel like you probably know where we're going with this, but he was like, the dad takes the brunt of everything in that movie. The dad just wants like a family experience, like a particular family experience. He wants to be a good dad, and he is the brunt of every joke. He is the he's the idiot who's just trying his best, and like no one gives him any level of respect. And I think like even rewatching Home Improvement and some of these shows more recently, when I watch it now with sort of that perspective in mind and as an adult, I'm like, oh, the stereotypes in these are very cringy the like they are very mean to dads. They are actually equally mean to mothers, like
agree.
in how they interact with each other and what the expectations are and what sort of the societal norms were at that time. I'm glad that he said that to me. I still love those movies just because they're part of my childhood, but it is interesting in the parenting roles where I never would have thought of that. And I think we do sort of create these kinds of constructs around that, like where there's expectations for fathers, there's expectations for mothers, and there's these like stereotypes that we grew up with that we don't even realize are so part of baked into us.
Yeah. Well, it's also very complicated because I think, like, I'll just put out my thoughts on this and you can tell me whether you agree, but I think that for you to have a solid marriage, you have to see each other as equals, but obviously you're different.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like trying to figure out, the challenge is trying to figure out how to celebrate the difference so that you can actually figure out where the real team exists. It's true. It's not only true in marriages, in my experience, it's also true in business partnerships, that it's very, very difficult to have a business partnership with somebody who thinks the way that you do or does the same things that you do well, because no matter how secure you are, you eventually run into something that makes you feel a little bit insecure about like, are they doing what I should be doing? Is that whereas if you try to partner with somebody who does something that you don't do, then it gives you the opportunity every day to live with gratitude for that person's existence.
Yeah. Well, and the difference.
And it seems like such an opportunity for men and women to be able to see each other that way. But it's not been the experience that I've had, the way that culturally we're set up to be able to create that dynamic.
I think one of the big things is too, when you said equals, it's always like, what does that mean? To be equals.
Yeah, I could take a stab at it if,
Sure.
but
I'd be very
equally
curious what that
interested.
even means, like to be equal.
Well, I personally think that all people are equal. Anyone who draws a breath is equal. That's it for me. You know what I
It's
mean?
very
If you
simple, yeah.
if you are in existence, then I don't ever want to look down on you for any reason. I feel like it would be disrespectful for me to look down on your existence above my own. Which means that anytime you walk into a room, anytime I walk into a room, I'm trying to be conscientious of never looking down on anyone. But it also has given me the gift of walking into rooms and never looking up to anyone either.
I like that.
I think in a partnership, though, and especially when you're raising kids, there are times where there's a lot of resentment that's drawn because you're doing the lion's share of the work, or
Yeah,
you always
roles and
feel like
responsibilities, yep.
there's never, especially in our society,
50-50.
when there's that gender construct or those stereotypes that you talk about in the movies. It still very much exists today in how we raise our kids, or how, now nobody can live off of one income in today's economy.
Yeah.
And you're working, so both partners are working, and then there's still the work of the kids in the households, and that often falls to the mom still. I mean, I don't know if other people in my house it does. It always falls to me, and there I think a lot of conflict arises from that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's intentional. Like, I don't think he's like, well, that's your job. It just somehow we keep falling into the same pattern. And I also think it's just based on your job role, too. Like Nick's got a lot of inflexibility because he has to be somewhere.
True,
and
true.
Eric is the same, where I have flexibility.
Yeah.
True.
So it's just easier. But I have to say that as Eamon has gotten older, though, and he's, changed in his role, when he has had more flexibility, he does help and step up. So, and I think a lot of that, like when you were talking about your business partner, and I've worked for a couple of startups. You know that, well, you know one. And I have seen business partners go very, very poorly, like very sour, been in some very uncomfortable situations where there's screaming matches. And I'm realizing that even with like business partners or your like your life partner, it all comes down to communication.
Yeah.
And I think when there is times where you're feeling like I'm doing 99% of the work and you're doing 1%, instead of holding the animosity, is just opening your mouth and talking about it. And that's not, I wear my heart at my sleeve. I'm like, eat at Joe's, like a neon sign. Like everyone knows where I am. I'm terrible at poker. Don't ever play poker with me. You will lose everything. So I'm very communicative, but that's just my DNA. But for people who are not, and in relationships, I could see where that creates a lot of conflict because they just can't have that dialogue with someone when they're feeling slighted or not in a good place. So
It's
You're
also
a conflict avoider.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, conflict avoidance plays itself out as passive aggressive.
Yep.
And the only version of communication that works is assertive. You know what I mean? I would say that the best version of communication is compassionate assertion.
Yeah.
Right? So that you first are thinking about the viewpoint of the other person before you try to tell them your perspective as your version of the truth. But as equally important to, one of the reasons why I think equality is really important is because I think that if we don't recognize that all people are equal, we'll also never be able to figure out what the truth actually is.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, perspective is a very beautiful thing for everyone to have, because what it means is that you were born into a unique genetic experience. And we know that that's true because all of us, or many of us, have siblings who are like us, but definitely not us. Right? Like you can see the genetic similarity, but you understand whatever the nurture part of this was combined with your nature and my nature and the nurture that went along with it. We went in two different directions, and we have very different ways of being interacting with the world, which tells me that we should be celebrating at all times this idea that you're born with this beautiful version of you. And then you create a uniqueness by making sure that your time is spent in a way that no one else has ever spent their time with that particular version of genes, ever. You're one of one. There is not a single person who is you, and there never will be. That is a wild thing that we should be celebrating, and whatever that time has accumulated into is gives you a perspective. But the problem is that it seems equally important to understand that our perspective is not the same as the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
And the goal of this podcast in many ways has been the goal of what I've been trying to do with any facilitation that I've done for my whole career of what I was doing, which is I just really enjoy touching truth with other people. I just really love sitting down and figuring out, could we explain our perspectives from our lived experience so directly and honestly that we see, is there a place where we all meet at something that feels like a universal truth to all of us? And if we do, then that's something that we can rely on to be more reliably the truth. And if we were able to get everybody to be able to agree to that, then we would know it is the truth. But that's why if you don't think people are equals, it makes it very difficult to figure out where the truth is, because you just get people arguing over their perspectives as truth, and that doesn't seem to be working for us.
No, definitely not.
Wow, I asked a loaded question.
Let's go to question 2 and see how it goes. You want to read this one? Oh, sorry.
You're right.
I know, right?
They're like
Fancy.
with a microphone.
I
We're
love
trying.
Alexio.
Oh, it even has
You know
a
what I mean?
microphone?
Yeah,
I
look
thought it
at
was just...
that.
Oh
Isn't
my
that cute?
goodness gracious. You got that from Paper Source, didn't you?
I don't know where they got that from.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do know that it came from Randy. I can tell you that
Randy
much.
for the win.
It didn't come from me.
As that version of you has evolved, how have you learned to care for others each day without losing yourself in the process?
So this is kind of making an assumption off of the first question in the beginning there, but the end of the question still rings true.
Can you repeat the question?
As that version of you has evolved, how have you learned to care for others each day without losing yourself in the process?
Oof, that's a work in progress.
I
I don't know if I'm all the way there yet.
Yeah. So where do you find the gains and the struggles? Like where?
I think I continue to be not great at setting boundaries. I tend to defer to wanting to be liked and wanting to be quote unquote good at my job more sometimes than I should be at spending time with my kids or being a good wife or kind of home life stuff. I'm also really bad at getting into like checkbox mode where I'm just like, well, I've got to get these things done. And I am very good at checking boxes at the sort of sacrifice of the bigger picture or doing things that are more important.
Which, in fairness, is an amazing skill to have when you're working. You know what I mean? To have a list and be like, oh, I'm going to get to everything on this.
Yeah,
my
I'm
God,
very
I
good at
live
getting
by
to
and
everything
die
on
by
the
my
list.
list.
Yeah, that makes you an incredibly effective person. So, you know, that's a... it's not something that you'd want to give up in any way because, man, what a superpower.
Yeah, but I think it's like, and I noticed this in particular to technology. So obviously, like I'm sure all of us are like hyper aware of screen time and of like, you know, how we are spending our time in relation to other people and certainly to our kids. So there are moments where, you know, we're all sitting down together in the same room and we're doing different things, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be the person that's like, you know, I'm on my phone and then yelling at my kids for being on their phone, or like I'm working on my computer and then upset that they're doing other things. So I think I'm still trying to be as aware as I possibly can be of how I am acting and how that is modeling that behavior to other people, particularly my children. And then, how I'm spending that time is, you know, and I'm good in some areas and then not so good in others. Like I am actually, the more I talk with other people, I'm feeling very proud of myself in that I don't allow, and actually we as a family don't allow any devices whatsoever in any of our bedrooms.
Yeah.
So like no iPads, no cell phones, nothing in the bedroom. We don't charge them there. We don't have they all stay downstairs to charge. And I do think that makes a difference. Like in that, you know, we are more likely to read in bed, or we're more like that. Those spaces feel safer, nicer. But then there are other areas that that I'm not as good at. So.
Totally changed my sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't realize how much I was disrupting my ability to be able to have a rhythm of getting to sleep when I, many years had a television in our room.
Yeah, I don't love that.
And got
yeah.
a bed that folded so that you could watch the television in like the perfect position. So it was like peak laziness in this particular area, which was fantastic most of the time, but it also has a price on the other side of it. And then, you know, it's an easy thing to slip into, and it's a difficult thing to be able to unravel. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I don't know if that at all answers the question, but I think it's hard. It's all balance. It's all a balancing act.
Two.
Yeah.
Have you learned to care for others? I don't really know who myself is, because I'm always, it's kind of like what you were talking about, like I live and die by the task list. Like, there's nothing more gratifying than ding when I like get to check off a task. So much so that I don't know how to find myself. Like I go on the weekends, like I prioritize like doing stuff with Eamon and the family, and then I'm like, okay, I'm very much like, I gotta do the laundry, I gotta clean the floor, I gotta like, you know, blah, 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 I gotta get the groceries done, I have to meal plan. And it's like, by the time I'm done the things, I'm like, it's like hot tub time machine. I just wanna like, boop, phase out, that I don't know what, without myself, like self to me would be like spending the time on the things that I like really enjoy doing, where you disappear. Let me explain what that means. So like, I used to love to paint. I oil painted forever, and I can't remember last time I did that. And I would just go into a different universe, like a tornado could go by. I have no idea. I would love to get back to that place, but I just don't ever get back to that place. So I guess in some ways I have lost myself. If self means spending the time on the things you want to do, then I don't know what that. I don't have time for the self anymore.
Yeah.
Or I don't make time for it.
So I've been thinking a lot lately myself about like, and you're closer to this, but like the phase of life where the task list is lesser, right? Like retirement, the kids out of the house, like, and I am in the same space as you. I maybe a little bit better at taking back some hobbies, but generally in the same space as you. But I've been thinking more and more as I have more friends that are like having kids that are going off to school and that are moving out, like, oh man, I just don't, like, now is the time that, like, even though I don't have time for it, I need to force myself to paint, to crochet, to do trips by myself, to like do these kinds of things, because I just don't want to be like sitting on the couch watching TV, or I don't want, like, I want to have my own life once the kids are out of the house. I want to like have things that I'm doing that are not work, that are not just work, or not just.
We had this conversation at soccer the other day, right? Like, and Lindsay brought it up, and she said, like, the next, like, what is the next phase?
What is the next phase?
What's the next phase? Like, I think that she was alluding to this boardom of, I want something. We did the house, we did the jobs, we did the kids, and now what?
Yeah, we've checked the boxes.
Check the boxes, but now what? And to me, I see like then that next phase is, well, your kids are. It is all about the kids. It's they're going to college, they're getting their houses, they're doing their weddings, like they're moving on, and you're watching that. I think that's an interesting phase for us, because we're finding ourselves again, but we're also supporting them, watching them, being part of that, but like more like at an arm's length. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that, like, that's just the conversation that's where we took it the other day. We literally same question or same type of conversation we had.
I just been like watching my parents, and so my mom is the person who I like actually never really related as much to. Like, I was always much more of like a daddy's girl, like really close to my dad in personality, and still am in a lot of ways. But my dad, the older he gets, and like he's trying to be retired, not well. It's like he doesn't know what to do with his time. Like, he doesn't have hobbies, he doesn't have like a friend group, he doesn't have things that he's interested in. He's trying, but he doesn't know what those things are. Yeah. Whereas my mom, you can put her just about anywhere, and she like finds friends, finds somebody, like she's just like, oh, I'll try gardening, or like she has a lot of hobbies, a lot of things that she does. And I just been watching the two of them being like, oh, okay, like I need to figure out now what those things are that make me me. Like I'm having those kinds of questions that you were saying, Julie, where I'm like, who am I? What do I really enjoy doing? That's not mom Katie. That's not work Katie. Like that's not wife Katie. That's just me. Like what are the things that like really I enjoy doing, or I find excitement from, make me creative. And some of it's like finding things that I liked when I was a kid, like refinding those again. And some of it's finding new things and new communities. But I just like, I want to be a certain person in that next phase.
Yeah. So I think that the sound that we just got means that
It's very Disney magical.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
no,
means
it's those
I thought that
cars.
was some music.
I
was
do
like,
too.
I think
Yeah.
that means that we've gotten to the end of the first
No!
hour. We've gotten
Question
to the end of the
3.
first hour, which means we've talked about our past. What we're going to do as we go into the second hour is we're going to talk a little bit about the things that we've learned from our past and how they apply to the way that we interact with our present.